right, good evening, everybody. I am the lady who is behind the mic doing the technical. I'm not the presenter though, but I just want to welcome everyone once again, especially also our guest on the Facebook, because we are right now live. And Zen, she's going to be the one taking over. And I realize that some of our speakers, they're running behind time, but it is still fine. Zen will actually entertain us with our speakers that are going to be the key people for today. And just to alert you, please note that we've got guests also from Nigeria that are joining us tonight, and we're just going to have a lovely time. But as we all know, today the topic is kind of rather sensitive, and we are just trying to assist our community in general, whether you're from Nigeria, Ghana, USA, Asia. This subject, it affects everybody. So for now, I'm just going to hand over to Zen, and you're not going to be able to see my face because I said I am the technical lady. So apologies on behalf of Good TV Africa team for starting a bit late, because we're still waiting for our guests that are also coming from different places. So thank you. Over to you, Zen.
Thank you so much, Eva. Evening, everyone. I see we've got our previous guest, Mr. Brian there. Hi, everyone. This is Zen, Thusi, of course, and the host of the show. So the show is organized and arranged and everything by Good TV Africa. Catch Africa doing something good, and then we've got in partnership with sports, Department of Sports and Arts and Culture and SALS, as you see there on the poster. If you can just go through the details there, it's detailing everything. So, and then it is in partnership as well with South African, the SCBC, which is Southern Cameroon Broadcasting Channel. You'll correct me there, Eva, if I'm maybe spelling it incorrect, but I think I'm getting it right.
It is the Southern Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation Television.
Yes, television. All right. And then we have our guests that we part of the show, but then they are coming in late. We're going to start with the guest, that is Coach Orestes. He said he's going to be 45 minutes late. He does apologize. He's just busy. So he's doing a lot of things as well that I would like for him to update us on his project that we said we should go and do as a research. And then we've got Matshidiso as well, who's coming in later, who's the co-host. She's going to be later as well, but she's coming in. So today I'd like to introduce a new guest. We've got Karabo Mohale. I want to make sure that I don't make a mistake on this one. Kade Karabo Mohale from the ANC Women's League activist. That is African National Congress Women's League activist. And then Karabo, are you there? You can just say hi to the panel or the floor.
Good evening, and thank you so much to the MC of the day, and good evening to other fellow panelists.
We are welcome. You are welcome, Karabo. And then we've got from far away from Nigeria, we've got Mr. Zwalda. That is Robert Zwalda and his wife. I'm just looking here on my screen. Manji Zwalda, yes, who's the COO of Exosia Media and Logistics, and the husband is the CEO and MD. How beautiful is that? They are working together, guys. So it's possible. Right? I'd also like you guys to do like just a small introduction of yourself.
Okay.
Mr. Zwalda?
Yes, I'm on. Hello, everyone. Can you see me? Okay, yes. My name is Robert Zwalda. Hello, everyone, and it's nice to have all of you around.
All right, just to we're gonna be catching up with what happened last time, so that you guys, like, what is it that we spoke about, what is it that you touched based on. I know that quite a few people are not here, but then they're gonna be coming in later. I think Dalukolo, are you there? Is Dalukolo here? All right, while we're still waiting on Dalukolo, Brian, I think if we can just unpack what we spoke about last time, just to highlight our guests tonight so that they know what is it that we touch based on. And the reason we have part 2 of this session is because there were a lot of things that we're talking about. And then we said, let's go home and look for practical examples, because we've been talking, we've been marching, we've been doing a lot of things. Let's go home and do practical research on what is it, solutions that we can come up with, solutions and things and ways or approach that we can do in order to change what is happening in our country. So this is why we have part 2 of this topic, which is the root cause of gender-based violence. So just before we continue with the program, let me get Mr. Brian, who was part of the guest previously, to just unpack what is it that we spoke about, everything that we spoke about, if you can just highlight. Mr. Brian, over to you.
I believe Brian is on mute. Zen is on mute as well.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, well,
Yes.
right, wonderful. As I was saying, my name is Brian, and I was indeed part of the host, of the guests rather, on our first segment of gender-based violence, the root cause rather, and we did cover quite a lot of gaps, though. From my side, we actually got disconnected beforehand due to signal challenges, but I'm quite confident much was actually covered in my midst. And we sure did define, or rather what gender-based violence is and how literally it's affecting the world at large. And a few guests, they actually gave their very own opinions concerning possible causes of gender-based violence. And from what I recall, some points were made concerning the upbringing of the male child and the girl child, and the difference between them. And some examples were rather given where a little boy, a video was actually played where a little boy actually went to the mother crying, complaining that he has been assaulted or beaten, and the mother rebuked him instantly that you shouldn't cry into the aikali in the native language. And so no, I don't.
Mr. Temba, we can hear you. You are on.
Continue, Brian.
Yes.
All right. We also exhausted the options of drug abuse, poverty being influences to gender-based violence. And I do believe it was Matshidiso, if I'm not mistaken, she shared a said experience which actually occurred in the past years, and how she has actually recovered from it. And to my surprise, she didn't hold it against herself or against the women themselves, but she actually took it upon herself to be part of the team and of the crew, to also exhaust on the possible root causes, which led things perhaps to the way it actually did to her side and to many other women. I'm quite confident we do have the record of a series of women that have been murdered, due to gender-based violence. So do care to add on where I may have left.
Thank you, Mr. Brian. Thank you. That was all of it. Just to add on to what Brian has said is that the reason why we decided to come up with this concept, the root cause of gender-based violence, is because the number of gender-based violence is not decreasing. Instead, it's increasing every day in Africa. So we said, maybe as mothers, maybe as young girls, maybe as women, we have been approaching it in a wrong way. So where are we going wrong? Now we're trying not to do double standards. Now we're trying to look at ourselves, all of us, including our men, because it's hard to hear us as women saying men are trash, men are dogs, while you know that we've got good men. I know a good man, my brother is a good man. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to bring men with us together so that we find the root cause of what is happening. So that is why we're doing this session, so that we can go deeper for what is happening. We're saying we are tired of marching, we're tired of talking, we're tired of saying stop, enough, doing all those photo shoots. Now we're saying, can men share their side of the story or their view, because it is different from what we're saying. So just to add on that, I would also like to for Vuyo, I'm using his laptop, but he's here as well. He was part of the previous show. Just to add on this thing that we spoke about, because he raised some good valid points as well on his side. So Mr. Vuyo, if you could like to just add on from what Brian has said before we continue.
Oh, for sure. Good evening, everybody. Hi, Brian. Good to see you again. Thank you, Zen. Thank you, Zen. Yes, we did touch on some few pointers that, were valid, that we felt like were incomplete. And myself and the coach, who's just running late because he's running some dojos, and in regards to a plan of action towards, what is happening in our countries, because, as people, we may see things on TV until it actually happens close, to take things seriously. And, as Zen has put forward, that, we are tired of marching, gathering together and just talking. What's the plan of action? What is it that we can do with the little influence and power, that we have in our community? And I believe the people are the most powerful tool of the community. And, as if we put our heads together, it plays a major role. It plays a major impact in how your community is raised, and the little positive influence that one community can create is massive, to the rest of the world. So we've been running some campaigns, the coach and myself, where we, he will debrief on the business in itself, but I'll just give it an overview highlight of what we do. Is run a campaign called the Men Like Me and Women Like Me campaign that he's been running for years, as he put it last time. And it started off as a self-defense class, until we, as well as people part of it, we wanted to go deeper than just, self-defense, getting to know the person and getting to educate people about self-defense, because people, parents as well, because I'm a parent myself, we have different ideas of what self-defense is, and that's one of the things that we are pushing, because once a person is equipped with these tools, they are able to, stand against the world. And, I look forward into sharing more of this thing when the coach joins us. But as a community, we feel like we need to reach out to certain communities as well and hear what the men and women are up to there, so that, we can see how we influence ourselves. Because we are, as the world, we are a very huge village, we may be scattered here and there, but we are one. And whatever happens here has an effect on the next community. So yeah, thanks, Zen, for that opportunity. And I look forward to hearing more pointers as we discuss with the people on the platform.
Thank you so much, Vuyo. And then just before we are carrying on with our program, I will go to Mr. Zwalda and Mrs. Zwalda for some campaigning programs that they are doing in Nigeria before they introduce their segment, because I would really like to know, what is your view on this based violence? What is your take before we get on to the solutions? But before I introduce their segments, or before they start talking, I'd like to play something or some project that they are involved in Nigeria, and it's on my screen.
Okay. Okay, so you can hear me loud and clear, right? So let's...
Mr. Zwada,
Okay.
we'll play the video first, and
Okay.
then you talk after that, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Can you guys see and hear the video?
Yes.
Very well.
All right.
We're able to see the video. Just adjust the sound. You can't hear the sound.
We can't hear.
On your sharing settings, ne? Connect the sound.
Sharing settings.
Okay, I'm trying to connect the sound, guys. Just apologies on that. Just a second.
We still can't hear the sound. Okay. Zen, can I suggest something? Okay.
You guys can't hear the sound, but you can see it, the video.
Yeah. Can I suggest something? Mr. Zwalda?
Yeah.
I would suggest that you play the video and then Mr. Zwalda narrate, because he knows what he said on the video. He knows what the video is all about.
Okay.
Okay. So you can start from the beginning, Zen, and then he will just narrate while it's still playing.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Zolda, you are muted.
Do I need to?
Yeah, what we are suggesting, because people, they don't know what you are saying because we can't hear the sound. So we are suggesting that while the video is playing, you just narrate, briefly, like, so just summarize what's on the video, just to share with us, because we can't hear the sound. I think they are battling to connect the sound from the other side. And unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Then from the beginning.
Must I start this over?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, this video is talking about the rape and the rate of the increase of rape that is going on in our society in Nigeria here. The figures, most especially from January to this to May, has increasingly significantly increased from and that is one of the reasons why I came up with this video, to tell people and to also encourage those that have been that are victims of this rape not to lose faith. And as a matter of fact, also governments can also also the government and how what they are doing to also coming to give them encouragement and also help them to come out of this trauma. So it's basically a video that talks about the increase of rape and how we can and the solutions to it. Thank you.
You may continue then.
Thank you, Mr. Zwalda.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Zwalda. So that is the video that of the projects that they are running on their side. And then Mr. Zwalda and Mrs. Manji, it's your platform right now. What I want to know is that I see the campaign that you are doing, and it's a beautiful thing. But now, with the numbers of gender-based violence continuing every day, before we move on to solutions, what is your take? I'll give you guys 5 minutes each to speak. What is your take? Because remember that the questions from our panel or from our floor will come from different people. Maybe somebody else would say my question to Mr. Robert, and then someone else would say my question to Mrs.
Really?
So I'd like to give you guys 5 minutes each to actually speak on this.
Okay.
Gonna marry you and I will wait for that day.
I hope I can hear clearly. The issues? Huh? The issues. What is?
Mr. Zwa.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. The issues of rape in Nigeria is significantly a worrisome thing, especially with what is going on in the society now and the figures, the increase in the figures. You know, it's not a thing that, you know, we are really we are seriously worried about, because it's increasing day in, day out. You know, from January to May this year, just within this 5 months, you know, the Premium Times have it online that the police just had recorded over 717 cases of rape, including death. You know, so this is a worrisome situation that had prompted me to be able to, to come out with a video on this, so that it will sensitize people on this and how we can also work with private organizations to be able to cop this solution.
All right. All right. And then Mrs. Zwalda, your turn.
Okay. For me, what I noticed with the increased number of rapes in Nigeria is that it even became worse when the corona lockdown, the pandemic, the lockdown, during the period of the lockdown from March to May, thereabout. And there was a particular incident that for me really broke the camel's back. And it was the incident of a lady who, a 23-year-old lady who went to study in a church environment in one of the southern states in Nigeria. And not only was this lady gang raped, she was also brutally murdered. And the whole place, you know, the pictures really, really messy. And till now, you know, we're wondering, okay, what could have led to that situation where a woman who goes out to read, and a decent woman, and you know, what could have happened, what could have gone wrong. So when Mr. Zwalda, my husband, started talking about videos and thinking of ways that we can enlighten people on what is happening, enlighten families, enlighten both the young people and the old people on what is happening with the situation of rape in Nigeria and what can be done about it, I encouraged him. You know, I said, okay, do this video. Let's talk about the issue. Let's put it on as many platforms as possible so that people will know that this problem exists, and people would also know that they need to speak out. They shouldn't be afraid to speak out. Speak out, and then, as you know, the solution can be found to this problem. So this is the reason for which I encouraged my husband to come up with this rape video, and we're sharing it on as many platforms as possible that we belong to, so that people will know that the problem exists and people will feel free to talk about it. Because another thing, that the reason why the issue of rape is prevalent in Nigeria is the culture of silence. People don't are afraid to talk about it because of this fear of stigmatization, because of the fear of rejection, because of the fear of the person that might be the person that has the rapist, the perpetrator of the act. So for that reason, people are afraid to speak up. So that's the reason, that's the reason for my own passion in the whole issue of rape. So when I have the chance to talk about some of the solutions to come up with, then we'll delve into that.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Zwalda. We did hear your points, both of you. Thank you so much. So this is it's actually sad, you know, the way things are happening in South Africa was actually even thinking that maybe it's our country only. You know, now when you hear that it is happening in Africa, it's happening everywhere, it's saddening. It's so sad. That shows that we need to come together as Africans. We need to come together as the society and work on this thing. So just before we continue again, I see that my co-host Matshidiso has joined. She's here now. And then I'm gonna move to Kade Karabo Mohale, who's the activist of ANC Women's League, African National Congress. Karabo, I'd like to hear from your side. I know you are an activist. And if we're talking about an activist, we're talking about a woman who's aware of what is happening. What is your take from this gender-based violence that is happening in our country? Now we hear from Mr. Zwalda and Mrs. Zwalda that it is happening even in Nigeria. And since lockdown started, it's become worse. We've seen the numbers with domestic violence that even in our homes, a lot of our sisters, a lot of people are complaining that the domestic violence has increased. A lot of things increased during lockdown, especially this pandemic. What is your take and what's your view as the activist of the ANC Women's League?
Thank you very much once again. Look, my understanding of gender-based violence, you know, is that more often than not, and I think this is the limitation that we've had in so far as trying to deal with the problem holistically, because gender-based violence is a very broad term. It includes quite a lot of things, including femicide. But I think for me, what I'm very passionate about is us understanding that at the center of this violence that is gendered is an issue of patriarchy and how it has entrenched itself economically, socially, politically, and otherwise. And how men, whether you are in South Africa, whether you are in Nigeria, have this entitlement to women's bodies, have this entitlement to women's choices and to women's agency. That women, whether they're in relationships or they're not in relationships, men want to dictate as to how women must live, what it is that they must do, how they must dress. And because we're unable to dismantle patriarchy, we consistently find a process where even the systems that we put in place exist to protect men. I mean, for example, in South Africa, I mean, the stats would tell you that South Africa, for one, is the rape capital in the entire world, meaning that we're leading in so far as rape cases are concerned. And this is because when you go to the police station and you want to report an issue of rape, the police themselves decide that they want to have access to your body and they rape you, you know, and you find a situation where young women are also not even safe in the spaces where the system would have designed for them to be safe. And because there is no will to respond to some of these anomalies, they go on unabated. There's absolute impunity in our countries, isn't it, so far as holding men accountable for their actions. And every time women want to rise and to speak about it, you know, there's always some form of oppressive view that comes and wants to silence women. And I think one of the previous speakers, Mrs. Zwalda, I think spoke to it to say the problem by and large that we have as well is the problem of wanting to silence women, wanting to silence people's voices, that they are unable to speak out even when they are facing such atrocities, whether in their workspace, whether in their homes. And it becomes very difficult because even the power relations exist to protect men and to ensure that the power that men exercise or have privilege over is not contested in any form or manner.
Thank you, Karabo. Very good pointers that you've raised there. Besides the cases that were reported or are reported every day, we know that about 50% of rape cases are still not reported, simply because women are scared to speak, simply because they are threatened. So now, since we said we're gonna come back with part 2, we said we're gonna go and do practical pointers. We're going to go do research. And I, as the host, I paired up my co-host, which is Matshidiso. She's going to come in now with Mr. Dalukolo. We just want to hear from their side. What are the practical pointers that they've come up with, that things that we can do to come up with solutions to change this situation? I know there's not much we can do because we do not control men or what they're doing at a certain time, but I believe that there is something that we can do as we are together here, as the youth, as the society. We are a community. Now we need to step in and say, what are the solutions that we can do to make this situation better? Matshidiso and Dabukolo, I will give it to you.
Evening, everyone. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Clear.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, like I said the last time, this is one of the topics that touches me because I'm one of those. The previous speaker who just said the police don't help. The reason why I didn't go on with my case is because of that reason, that the police don't really help. During the case, one of the cops wanted to be with me under the circumstances whereby I was raped. And to, you know, he didn't understand the trauma that I went through. He just wanted a girlfriend in me. He just saw he wanted to sleep with me, despite the fact that I have been raped. So there is the other thing. We need to fight corruption in our police stations because they need to understand this thing of rape, that it traumatizes you, it damages you. He didn't understand what I went through. And today I want us to fight this. As women, we need to go to our police stations and we need to explain. And our government, the ANC leader, my leader, as a woman, I want us to go back to our government and start talking about this. And we mustn't make so many other centers for women. It's about time we find a solution instead of building centers. Building centers is like building jail. You are saying people must go and do crime so that we can build another jail. The same as women's centers. I feel like we are saying it's okay for women to be abused because we are going to build more centers instead of finding solutions. It's about time we find solutions instead of building more buildings where women can go. We need to go to men and understand what is going on, understanding their anger, understanding why are they so angry, why are they so bitter, what is going on. This is the show about that. So today I'm here to say we are going to find the solution. Like I said the last time, I'm going to build a boy. I'm going to start by building my boy. And as women, we need to go and build our boys so that we don't have the same society of men raping women. We need to, my boy respects me as a woman, and I want him to respect his wife later when he grows up. So it's about time we go back and find the solution. The solution is our parents. It's us as women. It's us as parents. What are we doing to change this? What am I doing to change my men? What am I doing to change my son? We need to know that women are also important. We also need to know that men are important. I cannot live without my husband. But if my husband is abusing me, I need to stand up. And by standing up is making sure that my son does not learn the same thing that daddy is doing. The solution today is we need to go back and rebuild our relationship with our neighbors, our men, especially men next door, so that he doesn't learn to rape my daughter. He should know. Back then when I was a child, my neighbor was my father. My front opposite neighbor was also my father. That is how we grew up. Right now, I fear my neighbor. I fear my uncle to stay with my own daughter. So we need to go and rebuild that relationship.
Thank you so much, Matshidiso. Thank you so much. You've raised a good point there, Matshidiso. Very touching. I know you're one of the survivors. I don't call you a victim anymore. You are a survivor to me because a victim doesn't speak the way you do. You've embraced and you know that you are a mother to a boy that needs to grow up differently or see things differently. I love that about you. You are a survivor to me and to every other woman, whether you've spoken or you've been silent, but then there are women that are talking about it. And let's know that your silence means that you are saying the rapists must continue doing what they're doing. But if you but if you speak about it, you're saying that they must stop. And then I will move to Mr. Dalukolo. He did mention that he's having network issues, but then I'll move to his pointer, practical pointer from his side. What is it that he think that as a society we must do? Mr. Dalukolo, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Finally. Hey, good evening, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity. Missed some of the content, but I think I catched on when Ms. Karabo was speaking. So yeah, I think the first biggest failure that we have is the ANC, the government, right? The solution is that we remove such government from power. Why I'm saying this is because I read something today about, I think it was Japan, the South African lady that went to Japan recently, and she was shocked how ladies walk at night freely in the street, there's no harm, and the rapes are very low. She was shocked because she comes from South Africa where it's even dangerous to walk during the day in South Africa for a female. So the biggest problem that we have is the government, which is our government, is the ANC, because women have been crying, they have been complaining, they have been reporting these things, but the perpetrators of rape, gender-based violence are free. They get arrested, the next day they are out. That's the system that we have, which belongs to the government of the ANC. And another thing we need to teach young men. I always focus on the younger generation. I believe we can teach our peers and everything, but I think we must turn our focus on young men around, because what is causing them to do these things, it's the anger. If they can learn to control their anger, then none of this would happen, because we have many things that we were taught at a very young age. Why do most men beat up ladies who are saying no to them even when they are approaching these ladies? It's because we always encourage ourselves to prove a point. We have many things as guys to say that I'm good in chicks. Now, if you tell your friend that I'm good in chicks and you get rejected, it becomes a problem. That's where they try to prove a point that they're not going to stop even when the ladies say no. Then it translates to anger. Now, if they cannot control their anger, then that becomes a problem. So I think we need to deal with anger issues, but this also applies to both genders, because even ladies are contributing to gender-based violence. Some are beating up their men, but it's all because of anger. But where does this anger come from? It's what we do to people. Because sometimes we cheat on ladies, we do all these things, and they are human beings with feelings. So a human being will feel angry, but if they cannot control their anger, then that's where they react instead of responding. So if we can teach people to respond in a situation instead of reacting, then we'll be moving into a better direction than what we currently have now. So we must also be aware of the things that we promote. I even said this thing when I was speaking to my friend Matshidiso there, and I say we must be careful of what we promote in social media and all these things. There are vulnerable young kids on social media who look up to us and see us as big brothers and sisters. The things we joke about on social media gets into their head and they start believing in them. In SA today, we see many people saying, war is life. War is life. That's what they think. And now what happens with that? We are playing with people's feelings, with that whole phase and all these things that we're saying. You know, we're promoting and saying they are good things. We use men for money. You must have Minister of Finance. You must have Minister of Cars, all these things. And we use the people. And now when they can't control their anger, it becomes a big problem. So we must also try and be careful of what we promote, because social media doesn't even have a restrictions when it comes to age. Many young people, vulnerable people, get on social media at a very young stage, looking up to Tarukolo, And then Utankolo starts speaking about how he's proud of playing with many girls. Then the young boys will see that are seeing Utankolo as a leader. Will start copying what Utankolo is doing, thinking that this is the life. Many men are using money to get girls because that's what they believe it works and they see it working. Now they use those girls and then those girls get angry and some fight back. Then it becomes a big problem. So we need to focus also on what we do on these sites and what we joke about when we with other people. Be careful of the jokes because we call them jokes. So you must be aware of the things that we joke about. It's the anger, learning how to control your anger in terms of responding instead of reacting to the situation. But yeah, I think these are some of the things that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Dalukolo. That is Mr. Dalukolo from the Eastern Cape, and he was one of the panel. He was one of. Where are you from? Am I making a mistake? Not Eastern Cape.
I'm from Cape Town.
Oh, Cape Town. You know, Minama Xhosa. I know that Xhosas are from Eastern Cape only.
Well, my parents are from Eastern Cape, so I always say I'm from Eastern Cape. That's where
all
my
right.
blood
I'm still not wrong, Mr. Dalukolo. Thank you so
is.
much for your pointers there. And then he was on the floor. He was part of the previous session, and he did mention a lot of very good things, that his focus is on boys. He's running a project where he's focusing on boys, building young boys, and it is a good thing. So we're going to be going to Uvuyo as well on his side. We are still waiting on the coach, Orestes, but then he was paired together with Mr. Coach as well. We'd like to hear Vuyo's solutions. What does he think we should do as the society from his side? Vuyo, over to you, sir.
Thank you again, Zen. Hey, Dalukolo, thank you again for those words as well. You know, you dropped some jewels for me as well. And I love what you're doing with, you know, the initiative that you're running with the boys campaign. I feel like the root cause is, you know, when we're dealing with a root cause, you know, it goes back to what could be causing these things. And, you know, we as a community where, you know, we were raised in different ways, and especially during the times and how people were raised back in the days to how that influenced what's happening right now with the parents of today, you know, and going forward. So if we were passed on this baton and right now we are beating each other with it, and you know, no, it's the man's fault, it's the woman's fault. Yes, a culprit is a culprit regardless of their gender. And this thing that we have right now, or that is going on, where, you know, women are being, you know, done the most horrifying things on, you know, that one can imagine, to, you know, men that are lost, and to men that are actually doing something about it. You know, it's hard for me as well as a man today sometimes to stand and say, hey, you know, not every man, you know, is like that, because, you know, you don't want to come out as if you are defending.
Gender violence.
Sorry, can someone mute there? I thought they were speaking to me.
Shellington Banda.
So yeah, but, and
Thank you.
where was I? I was saying, with what's happening, I don't want to come out and say not all men are trash, and, you know, make it and then it sounds like I stand for all of these horrifying things that are happening. I say things like that because I believe that, you know, we have, amongst whatever is going on, we have real men that are, you know, standing against such, and men who want to fight such. And, you know, the number right now may be very small compared to what is going on, because another thing that that influences what's going on is social media, as Uputi touched on. You know, social media has a huge influence on what, you know, what we look at and what we focus on. And the image that is portrayed of men today is not something that you will be proud to say, no, in daughter. I'm a man, you know, it's horrible. And, you know, to know what causes these things, we have to retrace our steps as well as, you know, the youth of today, or the generation of right now that is building the future for tomorrow. Because if we don't do anything about it, the future is going to be battling or fighting issues that we were supposed to solve right now. And one of the things that I touched on when I was given an overview of what myself and the coach and the team are up to is a Woman Like Me and Men Like Me campaign, where it's where Mr. Orestes, or Coach Orestes, is running a transformational camp where we teach not only self defense, but we dig deep into the character of a being, you know, and to try and see what is it that pushes a human being sometimes to behave a certain way. So the coach will touch on the aspects of the campaign. However, I can give you an overview on the fact that, you know, we need to, as a community, come to fact that, you know, we shouldn't be fearful, but the world is a dangerous place. And for us to be able to survive in such a community, or such a broad community where we are faced with such, we need to be able to be prepared. And how do we prepare these things? Is one of the things that we dig in deep into. You know, when you're going through this self-defense campaign, or this Men Like Me and Women Like Me campaign, you go through things where they teach you about discipline, they teach you about defense, they teach you about the emotions and how to control these emotions, how to let them out and where to let them out. I feel like that's one of the things that we haven't really touched to as a man. You know, we grew up saying men are not supposed to cry, men are not supposed to be soft. Yes, however, I think we've also touched that statement has been interpreted in a lot of different ways. You know, people think it's literal crying, when it's actually toughening your son to be able to stand against mockery, stand against bullying. And these are one of the things that we touch on this campaign, you know, that bullying is something that happens, and it's not only in the human being species, it happens even in the animal kingdom, where, you know, you find it's survival of the fittest. And we are slowly drifting into that thing as humanity, whereby if you are not equipped mentally for what is coming, because most of the stuff that come is mental. If you're not prepared or equipped for what is coming, you will not be, you know, you won't be able to defend yourself or survive the situation. You understand? So we are not only teaching boys, we are also teaching women about defense, because our women need to be strong. You know, our daughters, I have a daughter, you know, and I'd like to know that I'm raising a queen, a princess, someone who's going to be able to teach and pass on to her sons. You know what I'm saying? So the little that we do now is going to play a major role in going forward, you know, equipping yourself with the right tools. Not to lengthen my what I wanted to say. However, also to touch on, you know, the government. I feel like throwing everything on the government is also one of our biggest mistakes, because we as the people hold the power to what is happening up there. You know, we as the people need to be the ones that revolt, that stand against things that don't matter, no matter what party you're voting for. You know, if you are for a good cause, for building a nation that is, you know, worth living in and your children living in, then, you know, then we vote for people like that, and then we vouch for people like that. However, the people are the power. So if the people don't know their strengths, then we don't know how to complain. And that's, I'm glad Ukeda Karabo is on the platform, and, you know, I'd like to hear also from her, when given a chance, you know, where are the doors for our sisters to go and run to, if we know that, you know, the police or the people that are defending us are also corrupted? Who else can we go and say, we have a situation like this? Who do we speak to? Which platforms, you know, allow for us to address these major issues that we are engulfed in as, you know, the world, you know? So that's my piece before I stretch it. And, you know, thank you again, Zen.
Thank
Can
you,
I say
Vuyo.
something?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vuyo. We say indoda ayikali. That's the words we know. That's the words that our young boys know. That's the word that I know as a young girl from my side as well. I think this term doesn't only mean indoda ayikhali to boys, only it goes to us as young girls, as women. When you cry, they say, when you're going through hardships, we hear those words, hey, khala kusizi, indoda ayikhali, like Brian said it there on himself as well. And then with our language, it was good to hear him saying it. And then we're going to be moving, I'm going to be touch basing going back. Matshidiso has mentioned that we need to fight corruption in our police stations, and then rebuilding our relationship with our neighbors, not being scared of my uncle, not being scared, being able to leave my daughter with my uncle. These days we're scared. And then Dalutolo raised, we need to focus on young men so that we can have these reasons and to have what is happening, and then respond instead of reacting. He raised that. And then what we promote on social media, and then we'll touch based on character, discipline, and that we shouldn't only blame the government and look at the government. Now we're going to be moving to Mr. Zwalda and Mrs. Zwalda just to hear on their side, what are the solutions? What is it that you have in mind to put an end? Maybe it can never be an end, but how can we help as the society? Where do we come in? What are your solutions, Mrs. Zwalda?
Then,
Okay.
then,
Yes.
Okay. So
before you move in, I want them to respond to something before you move in. I would like them to raise this thing of what about the kids who were born of rape? How do we help them? And Karabo, our comrade, I want you to tell me, how do we help those kids who are born from rape, and for them not to hate themselves? Because I think there is the other problem that no one has ever dealt with. I know as a parent and as a rape victim, I recently met a young man whose mother was raped to have him, and now the mother doesn't like the boy. The mother hates the boy because of how he came about. So as a comrade, we need to know if there's a center for those kids so that we can help them, because there is another anger that is going to go further. That boy is going to be angry that this is how I came into this world. My father was a rapist. I'm a product of rape, and I'm going to make sure that I continue where my father left off. I'm not saying that it's true, but I'm just saying that as a comrade and the other people on the panel, I want to understand, is there any center for those kind of kids so that later when they grow up, because of the prejudice and our society the way it is there any way that we can help them other than counseling?
All right, thank you, Matshidiso. So I think we're going to come back to your question after they've raised their solutions. For now, Mr. Robert and Mrs. Zwalda, can you please raise your solutions?
okay.
Solutions.
So I think still on the issue of parents, I think parents have a very important role to play in this, to be able to, reduce this evil act in our society. Most especially if parents should have or can build a healthy and open relationship with their children and be very vigilant, that will go a long way. Now, if parents cannot do that except they create time to be able to build this relationship with their children. And we can see nowadays that most parents have so many busy lives. You will see a father go out and all he knows is his job and everything, while a mother goes to her business. And in such and as such, leaving these children, to have friends that are not healthy to them. And as a result of that, that could also expose them to such kind of act. So if we need to cop this, cop situations on rape or be able to reduce this case, then we need to, all our parents need to also build a very firm relationship with their children. Another point is parents should know the kind of company their children keep. Now, if you as a parent, if you know the kind of company your children keep, then you can be able to know how to handle and be able to control them. There's a saying, show me your friend and I will tell you who you are. But this cannot be done except you have a relationship with your children, a healthy relationship with your children. And that also is the key thing that we all need as parents to do. If we have a really good relationship and a very healthy relationship with our children, then all these things can fall in place. And we can also we can also be able to know the kind of friends, or the kind of companies our children keep. Another point is parents should be careful about entrusting their children to the hands of persons they do not know very well. Mrs. Matshidiso actually, pointed out that, these days we see where parents are, entrust their children into the hands of strangers, and as a result of that, issues now come up. And when issues come up, you see that, they don't have, rather you find out that they are to be blamed because you don't know this person very well. So if we can be able to know the persons and trust our children to some certain level, I think that will also is another solution. Now, another point is parents should educate their children on the dangers of going to unsafe places at unsafe hours. It's also a way when your children, are going out. Where do your children go to? Who did they go to see? It's also important. Another point is parents should also teach also as much as we can, we should also discourage street hawking by underage children, and also encourage these victims of rape, and also love them and not discriminate them. I think those are the few points I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zwalda. Moving right along to Mrs. Zwalda, what are your practical solutions?
Okay, for my end, one of the suggestions that I'll make, in addition to what Mr. Zwalda said about the family, is that if, for instance, your guardian, your child, or somebody you know has been raped, and the prosecution starts, sometimes in Nigeria, the issue is that if it's a high-profile individual, that's the rapist, or a leader, a head in a religious organization, a lot of the cases are usually being dropped. And this information was given by the founder of an NGO in Nigeria that is called Passion Against Rape and Abuse in Africa. Her name is Foluke Daramola. She said that 75% of the rape cases on her table she has been asked to drop the case. It's NGO, it's non, it's free. She offers the services for free, but families have put her under pressure in 75% of the cases where religious leaders are the perpetrators of this evil, to drop it. So that is very wrong. My encouragement to families will be, go ahead with it. It doesn't matter if it's a political leader, if it's a religious leader, anyone who commits an offense should be prosecuted. Also, as I agree, and I would, with what Mr. Buyo said earlier, that we can't leave everything for the government. You can't, the people have power, and the people need to use the power they have. And I agree with that. That's absolutely true. And one of the key, for instance, in Nigeria, again, I'll give another example. There is a sexual offenders register that is being managed by an agency in Nigeria called the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons. So the register exists. It might not be, you have to have reached the point of prosecution, right, for your name to be in the register. I would also discuss that in shortly. But how many people actually access the register? How many people use it? A lot of schools, a lot of religious organizations where they have people that are in charge of children, or in charge of anything. As far as I'm concerned, if you're a sexual offender, then people should be careful with you. There are certain responsibilities you shouldn't be allowed to handle. You shouldn't be allowed to work in with children. You shouldn't be allowed to work in hospitals. When people know that if I get prosecuted, then that limits the kind of work, the kind of services I can do, and it's there on their register. All you need to do is to just pay a token, go through their system, and then they will release it to you. So let schools take advantage of that. Let organizations take advantage of that. And I believe that if that happens, that will drastically reduce the incidences of the cases of rape, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa as a whole. And then currently in Nigeria, one of the laws that covers the issues of rape in Nigeria is undergoing review. The penal code. There are several laws. I'll just quickly mention them. There's the penal code of 1990, the criminal code of 1990, and then the Violence Against Persons and Prohibition Act. It's really, I like to really, commend what the government is doing, the National Assembly, because it has gone through second reading. That's the review of the penal code. It needs to quickly be signed in, because for now, the 3 out of these codes that I've mentioned in Nigeria, the penal code, the criminal code, and then the criminal laws of one of the states in Nigeria, Lagos, the definition of rape is very limited. It limits the definition of rape to, a woman being molested by a man. And like we all know, even men are being raped. And we need to speak out for these men that are being raped. Is one of the solutions. If you know that, oh, okay, after all, even the penal code in Nigeria does not identify or recognize the fact that as a male, I can be, or a male can also be raped, then it's very easy for that kind of person to just say, okay, it's best I just keep quiet. Another part of the laws in Nigeria that really need to be reviewed is the issue of the punishment. It recommends, most of them recommend the life imprisonment. But the issue with that is that it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. The lawyer can decide to give a sentence that is as short as 5 years imprisonment, for instance, and even in some cases the payment of a fine. And the problem with this is that there are lots of, Nigeria is a developing country. There are lots of people that cannot even afford that initial stage of going to the police station and then reporting your case. And when you report, usually the police will ask you to go for a medical examination. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, the victim has to pay for this medical examination. A lot of families cannot afford this. And because of that, they end up dropping these cases. For instance, sometime in 2017, I read in Premium Times of a case of a lady, a 12-year-old girl in Nigeria, who was being consistently raped by an older man, and the mother went to report at the police station. But because there's such a, as soon as she went and reported, the police said that the family has to pay for her medical examination, and they had to drop the case and settle for an out-of-court settlement. So one of the key ways that if people know that if you molest or rape somebody, a male or a female that is from a poor family, after all, they can't afford to prosecute, after all, they can't take it to the maximum punishment, then people will continue to do it. So my advice would be that let there be more funding for whatever police department in Nigeria is in charge of the issues, that's women issues and the issues of rape, so that there would be people with the examination can go ahead free of charge. Really, it should be free. Already the person is a victim, and the person shouldn't suffer double jeopardy just because they don't have the money for the examination, and also the very exorbitant cost of prosecuting the cases. This would be my contributions for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much to as well, the family. Thank you so much. We heard your pointers. You've raised a very, very valid points. We're going to be coming back to that, I'm sure, and I believe that the floor, they've got questions. People want to speak, and we are here to do that, so that we come together as the society and bring change into what is happening. Just before I go to Karabo Mohale, which is the ANC Women's League, one thing that most of the points that have been raised is the corruption, justice, injustice, and power, money, a lot of things that have been raised. We're going to be touching based on that. We are live on Good TV Africa Facebook. You can invite your family, your friends to join in, to comment, like our page. We are there. We are here tonight. So moving right along to Ms. Karabo, your insight on this issue, gender-based violence. What are the practical solutions that as ANC Women's League you have implemented before, or that you are still implementing, and what is the feedback that you're getting, and is there any change or any positive feedback that you're getting from those implementations that you've come up with before, and what are the implementations that you're still going to come up with, or what is your plan with this situation as the ANC Women's League?
Thank you very much. Let me apologize. I'm in the dark now because ESCOM decided that. So I'm hoping that at least you can see a bit of me while I'm sitting in the dark.
I can see.
Yes. Look, thank you for this opportunity once again. Let me just start by saying, and I think this is something that Mrs. Zwaldo also referred to, which is the National Offenders Register. And I think the Women's League has always been very passionate about there being a National Offenders Register in South Africa, because we were saying in the main that if we know these people who have been convicted of sexual offenses, it's easier for even young women. I mean, before you even date an individual, you are able to go into the register and check if this person is a molester, is a pedophile, or what it is that they would have been convicted of. And I must say that there has been progress. I think a few days ago, the National Council of Provinces passed this particular bill that speaks to the National Offenders Register. So it is legislated. So from here on, I think it will just be an issue of implementation. From here on, South Africa will have a National Offenders Register. Secondly, I think as well, which is something that we have also always been lamenting, is the question around protection orders. You know, more often than not, we encourage women to say, no, get a protection order, get a protection order. But even when they would get a protection order, there would not be any enforcement in as so far as the police were concerned. You know, young women have died with protection orders in their hands, which actually spoke to some of the anomalies that we've been speaking about in as so far as the policing system is concerned, that there is such a disjuncture in the work that needs to be done and that which is done by police officers. And I think one of the bills as well that have been said, that have been passed is that of sexual offenders, which really speaks to the fact that, the protection orders, which really speaks to the fact that the minute one has a protection order, if we are living in the same space, police officers must ensure that they enforce that. You must be removed from that space. And we've been, you know, speaking to this to say, more often than not, it is the victim that must leave their own space. It is the victim that must leave their home. But how do you say that we must protect perpetrators? I mean, how is it a system that we are comfortable with, that when I come and say I've been molested or I've been violated, it's me that must go to a safe center? And I think this is something that Matshidiso spoke about, you know, so far as centers are concerned, to say, how do we say that a victim must leave and flee their own home and a perpetrator must go about as if everything is normal? It is the perpetrator actually that must be removed from the community, because they are the one that is actually terrorizing the community. And more often than not, you find that it's not only that they are terrorizing their own partners, they are terrorizing all other people as well. But because people are afraid of speaking out because of stigma, we end up keeping quiet and we end up being violated. And we as young women and women in general must flee our homes and go and find refuge in centers. I think as well we need to look into counseling and support of victims, and this is what we've been doing really as the Women's League. That look, we've realized that more often than not, you have young people who, whether they are raped, you know, they are physically abused in the households. One, they do not have legal assistance, which is something that is extremely important, because if you look at the justice system, the people that you really get when you go to the police station and say, I want a lawyer or I want someone to help me, more often than not, these people are really not passionate about the case that you are bringing about. And more often than not, it's usually men. And if a man comes, they will say to you, no, man, hey, please resolve this thing, man. You know, have a discussion with the person, with your perpetrator, try to find a solution. And we've realized that is actually at the center of our problem, that young women do not have legal assistance. And we need to get to a point where we have a repository for young women, that we can be able to assist them. So if a person comes and says, I have been raped, we must find them a lawyer. Beyond finding them a lawyer, we must find them mental health assistance, because you do realize the psychological impact that abuse has on an individual. You are really unable to function after being violated in any form or manner. And mental health comes at the center of the work that we need to do. We need to ensure that young people have got mental health assistance, whether going to court. Even if they do not decide to go to court, we must be able to give them that mental health support, because a case does not only end with you not going to court. You know, you have to live with that experience for the rest of your life. And we need to find ways that young women can be able to cope, young women can be able to be reintegrated in the community and coexist even beyond their lived experiences. I mean, as well, I think one of the biggest things as well that we continuously also speak about when women are abused and they remain in abusive relationships, there's always a trivial question that comes, you know, but why are they not leaving? Why are they staying? And there are quite a lot of factors. You know, it's a very complex issue. You know, it's not always black and white, where you say, no, because you are being abused, get up and leave. Sometimes you find that people are not economically stable. And we need to get to a point where we fight for the economic independence of young women. That at least we know that if it's not an economic issue, we are then able to resolve whether it's a psychological issue or whatever attachment it is that a person might have. So I think the economic question as well becomes extremely imperative, that we must never neglect the fact that people are sometimes in relationships because they need some form of financial support. And if we're not able to respond to the financial question in their independence, even if you say to someone they must leave, they are going to leave and go where? You know, so the only place that they have is with the perpetrator and with the person that is violating them. And there's another issue as well. I mean, I think for me, the biggest challenge actually that we have is political willingness so far is transforming the policing system. I mean, you go to a police station, a young woman would have had courage to open a rape case. Tomorrow, when you go back, your docket has gone missing. How does a docket go missing and nobody is held accountable? And those are some of the challenges young women face. And that's why you have such high rates of rape and impunity in South Africa, because you've got dockets that are going missing and police officers and station commanders go on as if it's business as usual. And these are some of the things that we would really need to be able to respond to. Of course, I am seeing you are unmuting yourself, chair of the session, so I'm not sure if you're saying I must cut myself short or but
no, you can continue. Raise your points.
No. Before look, I'm going to conclude anyway shortly, and look, I think as well, you know, and as a member of the ANC, we must, I always say that we must take whatever is thrown at us, because we are responsible for holding government accountable. And by government, we are saying the president comes from the ANC. And if we're not able to hold the executive accountable, then it means that there are certain things that we should be doing that we're not doing. So don't even think that when you attack the ANC, I'm going to take offense. I think it's actually quite critical that young people must be able to evaluate the challenges that we have in society so we can be held accountable. You know, sometimes when people are silent, you think that everything is okay, and you continue as if business is fine. You know, it's business as usual. But it's important when young people raise their concerns to say, this is a challenge that we have in government, this is a challenge that we think needs to be resolved. And because we're in the ANC and the ANC deploys to government, we must then be able to take all of these things that young people are saying, and we must be able to present them to the president of the ANC and say, young people are saying they are not seeing any progress. They've been marching dressed, they've been marching naked, they've held various protests, they go to police stations, they do all of these things, but still there is no progress. What is it that you suggest we must do from here on? If it is removing the ANC government and we feel there must be relief after removing the ANC government, then we must definitely do that. We must never protect, especially when we speak about gender-based violence. I'm very passionate about gender-based violence, that we must never trivialize it. And you get young people like ourselves wanting to defend the ANC and saying, no, the ANC has done so much. Yes, it has done a lot, but here in the question of gender-based violence, how far have we come? What are the shortcomings and what is it that needs to be resolved? And I think that's why you have young people such as ourselves who become activists in the ANC who are saying, we want to see the change that we are speaking about. We don't want to be far from it. We also want to hold people accountable to say, we know that these are the conversations that we've had. We've had a conversation around, for example, not giving bail to sexual offenders, especially pedophiles. Don't give them bail. Although the legislation does not speak to that, but at least we're in a better position to can be able to propel that discussion, even going to parliament to say that bill must be passed. Pedophiles must not get a bail. We must not see them roaming around the streets, 100 rand bail, and actually getting young people and parents and women so despondent in the justice system that we are not able to assist a society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Karabo. Thank you for holding it down, even under the ESCOM situation. I see Mbogote, Ipageme. Thank you so much. We've had pointers from Karabo. We're going to be giving a chance to the floor. Anybody who would like to raise solutions, anybody would like to raise questions, you're going to be free. So, but before that, let's give a chance to the coach Orestes. He just came in late and he did say he was facing challenges of the electricity on his side as well. And then Mr. Orestes, it's your chance to speak. We said part 2, we're going to be coming back with practical solutions. And I believe that you've done your research with your project that you're doing as well. You've got like a solution that could bring change into what is happening. Your floor.
First of all, good evening, everyone. Just want to check if you can all hear me. Can everyone hear me? All right, perfect. Perfect, thank you. First of all, thank you to everyone who spoke before me. I just saw my sister who was speaking previously, and I love the approach, I love the concentration, and then the focus that you guys are actually tackling this talk with. So congratulations on that so far. Basically, I believe we all gotta work towards prevention and solution, all right? We need to look at it like this. It's very easy to raise awareness and to go and march and have the protests and, you know, let everyone know what's going on and, you know, bring awareness to the communities around us. But that does not really put us in a position to fight the problem head on, because that protesting and all that doesn't really get the perpetrator from, okay, I need to stop this, or we're not dealing with them directly. And I also believe we as a people, we need to stop targeting at of course, yes, government's got a lot that they've got to do, no doubt about that. They've got responsibilities they've got to, you know, be stepping up to. But we need to remember that these government officials don't come from Mars or from Pluto. They come from our very own communities. So the moment we start working with our own, and by our own, I mean our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our nephews, our friends' friends, people who are going to be in position of power or in position to make a difference. These are people who are going to go into politics or people who are going to go into parliament. So the moment we start taking, you know, charge and holding our community accountable for certain actions or certain solutions, then we're really making a change. Before you know it, you look at government, oh, that's my cousin. Oh, that's my nephew's friend. These are the people that need changing. So we need to stop looking at government from a position of, they're not doing anything, these guys are useless. Yes, they're just human beings. And where do they come from? They come from our very own community. Some come from Kwamashu. Some people come
Have you lost Coach?
Network, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry, I just disconnected there for a second. But let me speed up because I think the network is trying to switch off completely. So this is my solution. First of all, for the ladies, because of course men are predominantly the aggressors in this situation, and I'm sure according to statistics, we can all agree to that. But there are certain things that our young girls or even our mothers and sisters can do to prevent from entering these situations. The biggest problem I notice with women in today's world is they do not have a good idea or a good meter or a measure of what is enough or what is too much. You know, women need to know that a man speaking to you inappropriately or raising his voice or speaking in vulgar language, that is too much. When that happens, regardless to you having gotten engaged to the man just now, or if you're just seeing things unfold in a moment, what you need to do is step out of the house, go to your mother or your friend or someone you trust and stay there for at least a week or two, switch off your phone. And when he comes down, he's gonna be like, okay, wow, what is that? I didn't even touch her. Why did she go away? I wasn't even physical. That then is going to put him in a position to be like, okay, wow, she really doesn't like it when I speak to her like that. I need to make sure that I never, ever, ever express myself towards her in that manner. And that's just already in itself, that gesture is going to keep men from getting physical with women. That in itself is something that women can control. But if you wait until a man lays his hands on your face for you to know like, okay, wow, this is going too far, it's going to continue going too far. So women need to know what is enough. You need to have the self-respect to make sure that you don't tolerate anyone disrespecting you or undermining you in any situation. And when you leave for that week or 2 weeks, it's not for you to say the wedding is over. No, you're just literally letting the man know, yo, that is the consequence of your action. Make sure it doesn't happen again. Because if it happens again, I'm leaving. You know, women need to get that within. And that's one thing that I'm really cultivating within women in the upcoming transformation camps that we have. And I think I'll talk more about that. So that's one thing women can do. What can men do, or what should we be focusing on? I ultimately used to focus most of my classes, the self-defense classes, on empowering women. You know, for the last 8 or maybe 12 years, focusing on that specifically. And I noticed that in order to really fight this situation or this issue of gender-based violence, we need to tackle the actual aggressors, all right? Because women are the victims. You can work on the victims for them to defend themselves, but the ultimate thing we need to do is tackle the aggressors, which are the men. And the truth is, a lot of these men were not well-disciplined as young kids. A lot of these men came up in unfortunate circumstances. So we can't also assume that these men are just born aggressive, okay? The environment and how they brought up has a big influence on how they behave. So the Men Like Me Transformation Camp is a holistic transformation camp, okay? We work on breaking men down mentally, morally, and physically, and rebuilding them into an ideal figure of what we need in society. Okay, it's a lot of the physical part of the training, diets as well. This is one thing that goes over a lot of people's heads. How many of us are aware that what you eat, the diet that you're basically on, influences how you think, how you perform, and how you react? All right, so with the transformation camp, we have diets as well involved with this. We have the close combat training, we have the discipline training, we have the interaction training on how to deal with your energies, how to deal with your emotions, how to deal with your aggression. You get a chance to do that effectively and not have to think of when you're in a situation with your spouse or your partner, your significant other, that you're gonna let your aggressions out on them. So that's the pretty much the approach of the transformation camp that's coming up in October. I don't know if you guys have any questions further in regards to that.
No, thank you very much, Coach. We thank you very much. I think we're going to open the floor from now on so that I see other people are being impatient. Guys, welcome and thank you for joining us in this show. Me and Zen are ready to take your questions, your comment, and see the solution to this problem.
Okay, can I just come in there? There's a number of questions that I've also been getting on WhatsApp, which I believe a number of people that have requested to speak will be actually getting a chance to speak on them. Just allow me to just go through them, right?
Okay.
The first one, it goes to Siskarabo. Siskarabo, people are saying, people, they blame government for a reason, you know, and I think Dalukolo, he explained or shared his sentiments around ANC. There have been a lot of campaigns previously by ANC Women's League, but it is true that we only see the party going hard on matters only after when another woman has been killed, you know. And Good TV has approached your office to form part of your campaigns, mainly to amplify the voice from the ANC office through the campaigns that you guys are doing, but also utilizing the different media platforms, because majority of people are saying they are not hearing what ANC Women's League is doing in terms of fighting against the gender violence. They only see them marching only after another woman has been killed, you know? So the question here is, for those who think ANC is not doing much, what can you say the ANC Women's League as a leading party or one of the leading party in terms of fighting for women in the country is currently doing to deal with gender-based violence? And adding to that, the question also says, where do you think ANC as a leading government has gone wrong? And what are the measures that you are actually putting in place to deal with GBV? And then moving, I would like all the speakers that I'm actually directing these questions to, just note them down. So I'm just gonna go all of them so that we can just make it faster, right? And then the second question goes to Coach and Udalukolo. It says, the reality is that perpetrators are also human and not some creatures from the mountain. What are some of the solutions you can give them? Because we often focus on the victim, but we sort of like, you know, turn a blind eye on the perpetrators. So what are some of the solutions you can give them for any psychological or emotional struggle they are battling with in order for them to deal with their sicknesses? And then this one goes to Mr. Temba. Mr. Temba, I know that you haven't spoken much, but we do understand that you also play a major role within our society. So the question here is, how do you think fathers can educate their boy child better in dealing with challenges at home that often seem to turn them into unacceptable creatures within our society? Because a lot of times we ignore the fact that, you know, in marriages there are always challenges. So when a wife and a husband, or mother and a father, they fight, that also affects the child. It affects the upbringing of the child, and to a point where now when they get involved with someone else in future, they want to inherit what they saw in their father, what they saw in their mother. But now, because we have gone through that journey, how do you think fathers can actually educate their boy child in dealing with matters in a better way? And then we also have Mr. Pastor Punjul, or Pastor Punjul rather, on the platform. He is also a pastor. He asked to speak as well. So the question that I would like to pose to him personally would be, what's your take on what has been said? But most importantly, as a pastor, how do you think the churches should be assisting the society in this regard? But I would also like you to add, because I know that you're also from Nigeria, Mr. Zwalda earlier on and Mrs. Zwalda, they also, you know, shared the story with us with regards to the rapings that are happening in Nigeria. And we realized that, you know, the government, they sort of like operate similar in terms of dealing with gender-based violence. But you being in South Africa and having to spend a lot of time, but also having the background from Nigeria, maybe just share a light on that, on how do you think the government should be dealing with this issue in particular. And then lastly, to Brian, in the olden days, most parents, they believed in corporal punishment, and they believed that it's a solution to discipline a child. But to some people, they take this as one of the root cause of abuse. Because when you are getting involved with someone, you would believe that I will have to punish my child, you know, to discipline them. But people, they're thinking, no. This is one of the root cause of the gender-based violence, because once you start putting a hand on someone, that's where the abuse starts. So as a young man who has experienced this, how do you think the society should be looking at the corporal punishment as? And do you think it's a good thing that we still need to continue with it, or it should be stopped? So I will hand over to the speakers that I've actually directed the questions to. Maybe we can just, you know, in brief, I don't know if Zen, you're gonna allow them to be long. I don't know how much time you're also giving them to respond to all the questions.
Thank you so much, Eva. I'm giving them, let me check the time where the show is supposed to end at 8 o'clock. We need to make sure that people don't complain, and you guys said it's 6 to 8 and then it went beyond. We need to try and keep our answers very short. So firstly, let's go to the first question that was asked to Ms. Karabo. Ms. Karabo, you had your question that they see ANC Women's League marching if only another woman has been killed. What's your take on that?
Then can
Yes.
we take a few speakers so that when we summarize the questions, if most of them have questions, can we give the floor to everyone so that we summarize all the questions? Then we can come back to give one of the floor people on the floor the questions so that they can ask or say something. Then later we can summarize by answering the questions, because we already heard from Karabo, we already heard from our panelists. So let's give the floor to other people so that they can speak, because time is not on our side.
Yes, no problem. And then I think PJ was the first person that I have a little contribution that might be a solution to the program, to the problems of gender-based violence. PJ, the floor is yours.
Okay, PJ is also Joe, which I've also directed the question to me.
Okay, that's me. All right, I'm just going to, sorry.
Okay, I think there's a cut-off connection.
I think
we can move on to Mr. Temba in the meantime.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, no, thank you. Am I responding to the
Sorry,
question that was
I have more than one device connected because my family is also
Temba,
listening to this and watching it. And so we have more. Is it fine? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Pastor Pujo. Can you mute your other device so that it doesn't have to echo on the other one? So in the meantime, I'm just gonna mute Pastor P for now, and Mr. Temba, you can move on.
Right.
Okay.
I am back.
All right. Okay, you can continue.
Is that fine?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Listen, I am so very thrilled by this discussion.
Okay.
I didn't really understand the magnitude of this, you know, and I am so happy that this go on. Let me know, please.
Pastor P, your connection is slightly cutting off a little bit. So what I'm going to try and suggest we do, please kindly sort it out for now, and then we move on to Mr. Temba, then we come back to you. Is that all right, sir?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Temba, please go on.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, what I wanted to check first is, am I responding to the question directed to me, or am I commenting in general?
You're going to respond to your question first, and then you can comment in general. So whichever you want to start with.
Okay. All right. Let me start perhaps with a question, and then I'll go to general. In terms of fathering a child, or particularly that boy child, what I've seen is that how do you become a father when yourself you have not been fathered? So for you to be a father, you must have been fathered correctly, because what comes out of you is what has been brought into you. So the environment that you grow in plays a very big role. So in another way, when I'm being raised, I'm in an apprenticeship, I'm in a school. So in that family that I'm growing in, it's where I've been raised as an apprentice. So in another way, what I've learned and understand, like for instance, most of the attributes or the way I'm living with my wife, I realize that I'm only duplicating almost what I've learned at home. For instance, one of the things that always sit in my mind is that my father, when he raised us as shepherds, he said, we cannot beat a female animal, not even talking about a human being. And he will teach us, for instance, how to say the skin of a female animal is soft, it's fragile, so you cannot. And you will even quote us in the Bible to say, treat women like a cracking glass. you know. So those attributes or those teachings, they're still stuck in my head. And as I get into a family, that's it. And now when I raise my children, the same thing, that's what I'm now carrying over and over to say, I'm teaching my children by me loving my wife and the way I treat my wife, I'm modeling to my children, and particularly those boy child, how to treat a woman. And that girl child also, when she look at the way the mother treat me, she's already getting a model how to treat a man. So in that format, I feel like an environment where a child must be raised must be first conducive. So what I can say is that if we did not have the opportunity in our life or in our upbringing whereby maybe there was no father figure or mother figure, that means we need ourselves, before we go into the institution of marriage, we need to get to close those gaps in alternative method where we can be trained and follow method on how to do, because it is very important that that child that you are raising there must have an ability to understand what he needs to do as he grows, but then he must see. So now me as a father right now, I'm not only teaching them the educational side of life, how to face life, but I'm teaching them how to relate to each other as brothers and how to relate to us as a couple or as a family. So it is very important that also we teach them how to treat other children in the society, how to relate all over in the society as a whole. Now, what I want to also highlight in terms of raising a child, we need to be able to be closer. You cannot apprentice a child while you are at work. You cannot apprentice a child while you are going to watch soccer and your child is playing somewhere. You don't see the types of toys that he's playing with. You don't see the type of stuff that he's watching. You buy him a gadget that he go and sit in his own room, and you are not even aware what is it that he's watching. So the fact that we can afford does not mean we can give our children everything. We need to teach our children to learn to lack in the presence of plenty. We need to learn to teach our children in our society how to share. For instance, there are times whereby you need to give your children money. Then you go with them. For instance, they can go to the street and look at the vulnerable people and let them be the one to give either parcel or finance or help. So that kind of way of teaching, where you apprentice by going with them to see how you interact with the society, with the people out there, and teach them. Therefore, they will learn to value people out there, to value that girl child, to value that boy child who is out there, who does not have the same opportunity. So it is very important to be always closer. When we go to funerals, when we go to places, let us learn to move with our children. And whatever we do, if we gossip too much, our children will gossip. If we help people, that's what they will learn to help. Whatever we do, they copy us. And even when they make their choices in their relationship, they will look, if it's a girl, she'll look like that father figure. If it's a boy, he's going to look for someone who behaves like the mother. So, and if, for instance, I'm very rough to my wife, my child, that's what he's going to do. He will treat it as normal. So these are the emblems that we need to present before our children so that they'll be what we are when they go to the society or when they reach out to other people. And if we respect each other, that's what they're going to do when they get out there. So that's what I can say for now in terms of fathering on our children. The other comment that I may quickly like to bring, I want to take everyone back to the situation that I want us to reflect from the Bible. If you check in the Bible, we have a situation that for instance, when Jesus Christ says he fed 5,000, the Bible record 5,000. But if you make a good research, you'll realize that it is more. It's just that in those times, women were not counted, children were not counted. And such kind of practices, it is as if women are not important. So such kind of relating, if you look at, for instance, the other scenario right there in the Bible, there's a recording that when they brought that woman who was caught in adultery, they say, Jesus, we caught this woman right-handed, but there's no way they reflect the man who was in the act. So it's like as if men can get away with everything all the time. So human race have been very much abusive and unfair to women from ages. So what I want us to reflect on is that it is important that as we correct this historical oppression over our women, is that we need to look at what is it that we can do in our society, in our today's life, how we relate to them, because we need to teach them the upbringing that is correct to respect them. Just another one, if you look, you can go to all countries. A boy child can run around naked, maybe even up to 6 years, but a girl child is covered all the way, taught how to sit, taught how to speak, how to behave neatly. But we need to start doing that to our boy child. The same apply, he must respect at home where I come from. Even today, as in now, I cannot go in my mother's house with a short as a man. Even in our upbringing, because they raise us to respect our body. And that's what is very important. We need to teach these boys how to respect themselves so that they can respect the next person. So I'm bringing this so that we understand that society is so natural that they don't respect women from government, from all corners. But if we start understanding that we are from the women, I mean, our mothers are the ones who bring us up. So we need to help them to do this in a way that we got to teach each other to have those values. Now, the other thing that I want to reflect is that women are very powerful and many a times are just not aware of the powers that they have. Somebody raised it also on. And in fact, if I may reflect, for instance, my wife was telling me that she had a boyfriend who said, you know what, me, when I think of beating a woman, I don't talk. And they were just chatting. There was no anger, nothing. He was just commenting. And that was the last time he saw my wife. By then, she was a girlfriend to that guy. So she left immediately to say, a person who even think or talk like this, I cannot have a relationship with this kind of a person. So these compromising factors, we need to uproot them from whoever. We rather go and sleep with hunger than stay with an abusive person. And we got to face those kind of situations and erupt them out. I don't want to deal with so many things. I feel like this platform has more things we can talk about and more and more. I just want to give other people a chance so that they talk also, and we can always talk further and further.
Thank you, Mr. Temba. Quickly, Mr. P, just jump in quickly. Please unmute yourself.
All right. Sorry about the connection issue. I'm sure you can hear me now. I've got this sorted now. Okay. So please permit me to talk about what I think of this whole topic. Believe me, when I saw the flyer and the invite to this meeting, I was quite elated. If you look at the flyer, what it says is the root cause, meaning that we are supposed, I thought that in this meeting, of course, we're doing just that, but I would really want us to look at the true, or let's see if we agree on what the root cause or causes of gender-based violence is or are. right? I will advance my my opinions, and just let me know if you agree with me or not. And this is more or less a discussion that the whole world should be having right now. Everyone in every nook and cranny of the world should be having this discussion. And the first thing is, I remember Karabo, the ANC. I'm happy that a representative of our mothers in the ANC is right here in the person of Karabo. Thank you for your presence. You had talked, was it you or was it Matshidiso who raised a point about patriarchy? Right. Okay. So if we do not look at what the root cause is, all that we're talking about might just be like applying a band-aid to a wound and not looking at, or to an ailment, and not finding out the root cause of that ailment. The first thing is that I think this discussion, again, is an exclusive preserve of men, because I think, as a man, I believe, looking at the perpetrators of gender-based violence in society, I think men should be having this discussion among themselves more actively than involving women, you know, because I think the problem lies with men. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Someone mentioned patriarchy and said that we need to dismantle, these were their words. Was it you, Karabo? I'm not sure. But the person said, we need to dismantle patriarchy. Now, but I think because of time, I think if we are going to go that route, we're just going to be compounding the problem. We're going to be making it worse, okay? Now, if you look at the whole of creation and look at society, you would agree with me, just like Temba has said, that, and I agree a lot with what Temba has said, and I'll speak into that in a moment, to say that there is a force behind all that we see, behind creation. And that, I believe, a lot of us believe also, that hand behind creation is God. And there was a way that God intended for creation to go. All right, good. So what is patriarchy? What is patriarchy? Now, the understanding of, the prevalent understanding of the world about what patriarchy is, I think is essentially wrong. And if we can get the definition of patriarchy right and embrace it, that will be the beginning to the solution of our problems and to all the problems we're talking about. Yes, raising children. Yes, teaching boys and all of that. The root cause is understanding what patriarchy is and what it was intended to do. So the prevalent understanding of patriarchy in the world today is that the world is a man's world. Okay, and by that everything is subservient to a man, and that whatever a man says goes. But was that God's intention for patriarchy? Patriarchy means a man is the leader. But what did God intend for man to be, or how did God intend for man to lead? And this is it. Simply, I'm going to put it in very plain words. God intended for man to be a servant, period. Until you are a servant, you are not a leader. If you do not understand what it means to be the one who puts your neck to the line for society, for women, for children, then we are getting it wrong. Patriarchy is a beautiful thing. We need to embrace that. But then we cannot embrace it until we understand what it truly means. And I think Coach Zana, Tano, is that you, Coach? Spoke about this a bit. Patriarchy, I believe, is the solution. But then people, men, need to understand what patriarchy was how it was intended to go. So I will say this, that men are intended, or God brought men to be leaders so that they can be the people who serve. So it's leadership by service, servant leadership. That is what works, all right? So anything devoid of that, you get society that is chaotic, all right? Now, if you look at the culture that we have now, to be able, so I'm trying now to be very quick, and I might mince words, but then this is what it is. For us to be able to bring back the original way that society was supposed or was intended to be, we have to start building a culture amongst our boys. We have to start building a culture in families, in society. And what is that culture? Listen, what happens now is you see a man take his son out fishing, right? And you see in the course of fishing, he is trying to tell the boy, and he has girl children, and he leaves them at home. He takes just the boy and takes him out fishing, and to show him, just a way of initiating him into manhood. All right. Now, what does that begin to do to the mind of the boy? Okay. Now, so that is one. You have a boy, you have a girl as your children. When it comes to doing dishes, you ask the girls to always be the people who do. Does that make sense? No, all right? So the culture needs to change. Government can only do so much. If we're talking about government and talking about our leaders, like a coach rightly said, our leaders are people like us. As a matter of fact, I can talk about a leader in Nigeria who, when he was in power, did nothing about the incessant electrical outages in Nigeria, power outages in Nigeria. But when they left office, he's now trying to, blame the present government. That's just the thing with our present day leaders. They can't help. All right, that's what I am saying. Now, the solution lies with us. It lies with society. And until culture changes, culture is very important. Until the culture and our mindsets change, we cannot handle this, all right? And what I am saying is, if you look at people in England, we call them civilized, okay? Like Temba was saying, what makes them civilized? These are people who have embraced certain cultures over time. So if you are going to eat, you come to the table and you use a knife and a fork. And they build this in their children from when they are young. And if you're not able to do that, you are regarded as not civilized. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the culture has to change. It has to change. All right. You cannot take children up the mountain every year and say you're going to initiate them and think that this problem will be absorbed. You cannot solve that problem like that. This problem is so big that we cannot be talking about how a man behaves. A man behaves based on how he has been groomed. Okay, so it is about grooming. It is about grooming. And see, I have so much to say about this, but then in a nutshell, what I am saying is that patriarchy, the true patriarchy, is the solution to the problems we are talking about. And the wrong definition of patriarchy is the root cause. If we agree on this, then let's begin now to put our heads together to say, what are the possible solutions? How can we bring in the true definition of patriarchy and then put that into our young men, put that into our the boys who are growing up, so that in the near future, we can say, or we can boast that there are people posterity that will take over from us and be able to proffer solutions to all of this problem just by their grooming. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. PJ. Then you are mute. You are mute, Zen.
Thank you, Mr. PJ. Wow. I'm so touched, and we never leave this session the same. I never leave it the same. I'll speak for myself. Mr. PJ, that was very voiceful. Thank you so much. Eva, what?
Yes. Yeah, we have Karabo and
Brian.
And Brian remaining, and then we also have Mr. John from Nigeria who would like to say something, and then maybe we can just wrap it up after that. So I would suggest that, because we would always prefer to stick to our commitments, those who may want to leave the platform at 8 o'clock, it is okay, but I just so believe, like Mr. Ponjul said, the world needs to hear this. And just on
yes,
this message has been recorded just so that we can share with the world.
Yes.
If you are able to remain on the platform until 8:30, please do so. Don't leave with your brilliant solutions that you have, because after this, we're going to distribute this to all the media platforms that we're working with across the world in partnership with the SCBC. So for now, I think let's just jump quickly to Karabo, and then we move to Brian. And welcome, Mama Joy. I see that you're here as well.
Thank you very much. Look, I'm actually quite excited that we actually went into a conversation about patriarchy. Maybe that should be the next conversation that you enter into, and you actually dig into the problematic idea, which is patriarchy. I think it'll be very interesting to get different views around what exactly is patriarchy and how it has manifested itself over time to what we see it to be today. Look, I think one of the biggest things that has been mentioned here is us understanding the root cause of gender-based violence in society, and I don't think the ANC is the root cause of gender-based violence. Look, when my father beats up my mother at home, the ANC is not there. When a young woman is raped walking to school, the ANC is not there. So we need to be able to be honest to ourselves about the challenges that we face as a people. It is men that are perpetrators. It is not the ANC that is a perpetrator of gender-based violence. And we need to start having solutions that are directed towards the perpetrators. Of course, it's understandable that we always want someone to blame, and it's important that we must lay the blame somewhere. But if we lay it to the wrong people, we're not going to be able to have the solutions that we want to have. When young women are raped, we must be able to come and have a conversation and say, what is the problem? How do we resolve that challenge? Even if you remove the ANC government, for example, there's no ANC government in Nigeria. There's rape in Nigeria. Brazil is, I think, is the murder capital in the world. There's no ANC there. So when you discuss the question of crime, I think it becomes very important for us not to trivialize it and want to be extremely political about how we should be solution-driven in it so far as gender-based violence is concerned. And look, just to respond to some of the questions that were raised so far as the Women's League. And I think this is one thing that we often forget, that the Women's League is made up of young women. It is made up of women who are victims as well. And we always say that people really do not understand how difficult it is to be a rape victim. And you must stand up in front of the whole world and put on this facade that you are strong, you are an imbogodo. And because you are a leader, people do not expect you to crumble in front of them. They are looking at you for solutions. So we must always remember that even women in the ANC themselves are victims of gender-based violence. They're also fighting for their own liberation as women in societies, as women even in the ANC itself. And it becomes really important that we work together and not really dwell on our ideological differences, but really find areas of commonality that we can be able to collaborate on. I know for a fact that the ANC Women's League has been attending court cases. I attended one in particular. I remember that one in Leboahomu in Limpopo, where we had to go and support a young woman who was raped and did not have any form of support. And sometimes, because these cases are not on TV, we feel as if people are not doing enough. And of course, it's fair to say that maybe the Women's League is not doing enough. But I think it's also important to say, what is it that you would want to see the ANC Women League doing that it is not doing? When there are famous cases that are there in the public, of course, their voices will be added together with all other women-led organizations. And I think also we always say that there are so many women-led organizations that are there in society, that should be able to collaborate amongst each other, even outside of the Women's League, and fight for the liberation of women. I don't think that the Women's League is the panacea of women's struggles. They don't own women's struggles in the country. And we must be able to get to a point where we learn how to collaborate. you know, you already have my numbers as a Karabo. If you have a challenge, you know, send a WhatsApp and say, Karabo, how can you be able to assist us? The unfortunate part is that the ANC Women's League is not in our homes. It's not in our houses. They do not understand what we go through when we go to bed. And if we are not able to amplify our own voices in as so far as our own struggles are concerned, we're going to feel as if those that should be leading the struggles are failing us, because they don't really understand. When you are raped as a young woman and those that you feel should be leading your struggles do not know about it, you're going to feel as if they have let you down. So I think it becomes important as well for us to reach out for help where we need help, even if it's the Women's League, any other women-led organization, to say, this is the help that we need. How can you be able to help us? I know, I mean, since the lockdown started, we had what we called Umanyano Thursdays. Each and every Thursday, the Women's League has got virtual platforms where they have different discussions. I mean, I think just during the week, we had what we call a Doctor's Corner, where we brought in different doctors to speak about some of the challenges that young women face, whether we're discussing contraceptives, whether we're discussing a destigmatization of termination of pregnancy. So we also have some of these virtual discussions that we have on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and other platforms. We have what we call Malibongwe. So what Malibongwe does is that it brings women in different communities together. And I think this becomes very important, that as women in our different communities, we need to find solutions to the problems that we face in our own societies. We understand our societies better than any other person that can come from Gauteng, for example, driving all the way to Lubogom. We understand the bottlenecks that we face as women in those particular areas, and we need to be able to collaborate. We need to be able to ensure that women are empowered as well to fight for their own challenges in their communities. And I know that communities in the majority have what we call CPF. I think it's community policing forums. We must have women leading some of those forums so that their voices can be amplified and they can be able to ensure that there is a collaborated effort in the community, you know, so far as responding to the challenges that they face. And I know that as well, we are also partnering with various NGOs to respond to some of the challenges that women face. But I really do must say this, that look, it's important that there are recommendations in so far as what people believe that we should be doing that we're not doing. Of course, it will be true that when, of course, there's a case that is on television, you will see us, because there is that particular focus on that particular case. But there are so many young women that die on a daily basis who we don't know their names. It's not true that the ones that we're speaking about are the only ones that are dying. It's not true that the ones that we're speaking about are the only ones that are being raped. There are so many young women that die, and their voices die with them, and we're not there to amplify their voices. So it becomes really important that even when we have such conversations, we're able to say, look, Women's League, you are here, great. We're thinking that this is what you must do and this is how you must be able to tackle it. Because as well, I'm sorry about the darkness, as well as individuals, you know, we do not have a monopoly of wisdom. We do not have a monopoly of resources. You know, there are certain things that we might not be exposed to that some people know that, you know, if they were to tell us, we can be able to approach the women's struggle a bit better. So I call on people, and I'm encouraging people to say, even if they're not members of the Women's League, even if they're not members of the ANC, it becomes important for them to say to us, this is how we believe you can be able to approach the gender struggle. These are the policy reforms that we think are very imperative. These are the areas of transformation that still need your attention. It's really important that there is that collaborative effort, because we don't exist in all spaces, and we need all voices to come on board and say, this is how we think we can be able to fight the scourge of gender-based violence in South Africa and Africa as a continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Karabo. Let's quickly jump to... Sorry about that. Dalutolo, thank you, Virakunji. If you may jump in, sir.
Hi, can you hear me?
echo, and I see it's like you guys have two devices connected. If you
okay, I'm not too sure where the echo comes from. Can we all unmute our mics? Okay, Deltolo, I think it was mine giving me an echo. Please, you can continue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah. So first things first, we need to we mustn't feel attacked when people are raising these concerns that we feel that we need to be defensive. Men, women, political parties, we mustn't try and be defensive when it comes to these things. If we're gonna compare like countries and government and say everywhere it's happy, this is the same thing, we must compare with other governments that are not corrupt or are not lenient on these things. Let's check Arabic countries which are very strong when it comes to gender-based violence, where the rape cases are very low when it's reported. They actually take note of that. I've read so many articles like in Arabic countries where they chop off pieces of private parts to people who are raping. So when it comes to that, let's not try and be defensive. Even as men, let's not try to be defensive when it comes to this. And also another thing that I wanted to add is the thing of patriarchy and selective feminism, or not understanding feminism, because those things are actually putting more pressure on the gender-based violence, because men start feeling attacked when women start speaking about patriarchy, because men don't see patriarchy as wrong. Because it has been so normal for them that they have been benefiting from that system for so long. Now, when women are crying and saying we want equality, then men feel attacked, and this is not an attack to men, but it's a cry for equality. Same thing with misunderstanding feminism. We must understand what feminism is about. So there's many young people that think feminism is about hating on men, all these things, and there's selective feminism that you are getting on social media. For instance, rich people get away with a lot, because if Dalu is rich and I touch some lady, I'm called that Dalu is naughty. But if a poor man does the very same thing, then it's a big problem. So we must also be aware of its selective feminism. But to go to my answer of the question that was asked to me about what can you do about the perpetrators, my answer here is dealing with anger. So this thing comes from a mind talk. I call this thing a mind talk that we all have, and it can help you. I attended a weekend away on training of processes that one can try when it comes to mind talk, because this is where the anger comes from. Because when your girlfriend does something, for instance, when she cheats, what makes you angry? What makes you angry is your mind talk, because now you start believing that when she cheats, she's making you weak, you are seen as weak, and all these things get into your head, and then you get to be angry, and now you react instead of responding. So what I would say that it's something that we need to do to perpetrators is we need to teach people on how to control their anger. This is controlling, taking power of the mind talk. The mind talk is a very dangerous thing to everything that surrounds you, friendships, relationships, relationship with even parents. You understand? So we need to learn to respond and not react. And this all comes from controlling the anger. So we need to teach people on how they can control their anger. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kolo. Quickly, let's move to Brian. Brian, about the corporal punishment, please. Thank you.
Mute.
Oh, I mute. Oh, Brian, please jump in quickly for your question regarding the corporal punishment. If you can hear me, please. If it's not there, Pastor Punju, maybe jump in quickly with regards to how do you think churches should be assisting in this regard? How do you think they should be part of the society and educating people about gender-based violence?
All right. Well, you call me a pastor. I don't think I'm a pastor. Do I qualify as one? I'm not sure. But then, the truth is this. Listen, violence against anyone is wrong. That is the basis from where we can go, you know. Against anyone, whether against a man, whether against a woman, any form of violence should be, you know, frowned at, and such acts in society should be nipped in the bud in any way possible. And in any way possible, I mean within the confines of the law, you know. So as churches, I think churches can only help in the sense that churches need to work with their congregants within the confines of the law. So if, for instance, a woman comes to a pastor and reports that she has been abused by her husband and she has a black eye, most often than not, you have pastors. The first question, and this I have heard from quite a number of women, the first questions most pastors ask is, have you been submissive? As if to say it is the fault of the woman. That is a wrong approach. That is not of God. I don't think that is how God would. Like, Temba, was it Temba or yes, it was Temba. He raised this story about a woman who was accused of fornication or adultery with another man, and that woman ran to the feet of Jesus. What Jesus did was to shield that woman. And the next thing he did was to turn to the men and say, if any of you has not committed any sin, let that person be the first to cast a stone upon this woman. So you see, that should be the approach of the church, because Jesus left us examples in his deeds, in all that he did, in the way he led himself, the way he carried himself, left us examples. And if we can just follow these examples sensibly, because in following these examples, people just go, you know, senselessly and do things, you know, that are not warranted. But then from that story, you can see that Jesus shielded that woman and then dispersed of that crowd and turned to the woman and told her how to carry herself henceforth. So if that can be the approach, I believe that women will feel secure, because my understanding of who a man is that once a woman sees you as a man, the first feeling that she should get is the feeling of safety. Until we get to that point when a woman sees a man and feels safe, we are not doing it. We're not doing it right. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. P. Thank you so very much. Brian, please quickly. After Brian, we're going to have Mr. John, and then we have TD and Zen to wrap up, please. We're only left with 10 minutes. 10 minutes, my speakers, kindly. So Brian, please jump in quickly.
All right, Eva, thank you. Where I'm actually of the verdict that corporal punishment should be actually abolished. You know, I'm really actually grateful to the government that it is actually taking initiative on this particular notion in schools and actually in homes as well, because this is my belief, Corey. Corporal punishment, of course, biblically, disciplining a child is actually agreed or allowed, if I can actually say. But I'm actually having a challenge now nowadays with parents or rather guardians who literally don't know where to draw the line, because that corporal punishment done once or twice to a particular child, it literally instills in the mind of the child that perhaps the only way to solve or to rather show some form of punishment is actually through aggressiveness. So that's my take on that.
Thank you so much, Brian. Short and straight to the point. Mr. John, if you are still with us, yes, I can see Mr. John Ochogu from Nigeria as well. Please kindly say the platform is yours.
All right. Thanks for the attention. And I think you've picked on a very good topic to address here.
Thank you.
My name is John, and I'm a father of 5. I've got 2 girls, and I've got 3 boys. My thoughts have in part been addressed by others, but I'd like to just quickly run through these. First, I think in raising boys, we need to give them a sense of self and responsible use of their hand of cards. What hand of cards am I addressing here? They're being born as boys is a hand of cards. It comes with everything from their pressures to the things that they consider pleasurable, how they receive stimulus and how they respond to those. So in understanding what their hand of cards is, they need to know where testosterone comes in, they need to know where responsibility comes in and all of those. That's very important. Next, we should also teach boys what options they have. Give them a wider template of expressions and anger management tools. Oftentimes you find that a guy who only knows 2 words, like they say, to a hammer, to a carpenter, every problem requires a hammer. So if these boys don't know how many other ways to respond to stimuli, maybe like aggression, temptation, insults, or whatever it is, they might resort to violence. But if they knew how to manage anger and how to handle themselves, probably we would not have cases of violence, gender-based violence. That's one way. Another is also to teach them respect for women and give them a means of using their testosterone better, maybe deploying it through sports and maybe through defending even their siblings, in this case, their sisters as well, and not giving in to the base temptations of getting violent against people. My last thought would also be that we should observe our boys especially, observe their influences, their states of mental health, their choice of recreational beverages, including drugs in some cases. It's very important to know what influences a man before we can try to influence that man. Now, if that is looked at properly, then we're able to manage how they direct their aggressions. What video games do they play? What websites do they visit? What friends do they hang out with? If we have a handle on all of these things, then we're better able to understand and help these young ones manage and respond to their environment. Sometimes the male child is also a victim of more influences than we are aware of. So the more we know, the better we're able to equip them to respond to society. These are just my few thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. John. TD, you can come on board now with yourself and Zen so that we can just wrap it up quickly.
For coming. Before I wrap up, I would like to say, I think death penalty must come back. I think that's the other solution that we can come up with, because we've tried so many other things. And Women's League and the speakers, I don't think, from my point of view, you are doing enough as a woman who was raped before. Yes, we do believe that you only attend those cases whereby the people are on TV. I was one of those people who were raped. I had no one to help me from ANC, Women's League, or any other league whatsoever. But I love all the points that were raised today, even though it seems like we still have a long way to find the solution, but we are almost there. The cutting of the what parts, I think that's the other solution, because if you do something that you chop your hand off, it's about time as community, we said we have power. Let us go out there and use this power and force government to chop that thing that is making men do whatever that they are doing. And for us women, if ever I accuse somebody for rape, if they haven't done it, we should get a certain punishment as well. We shouldn't really blame men only. We are all to blame. We are all human beings. It's about women being killed, women being raped, men being raped, and men being accused of things that they haven't done. It's a lot as a society. So I'm saying, let's go out there and let's bring back death penalty, and let's make sure that men, instead of, because when they go to jail, it's us who are supporting them through tax. So it's about time we take a serious step. The serious step is bringing all those two. Cut off that thing that I don't want to talk about because I have kids who might be watching this, and let them be killed. I'm not saying death is it's good to kill someone, but I'm saying if you kill, be killed. Let's get rid of this thing of people being killed and coming back after 2 years, or the corrupt police are taking them out of jail and so many other things, because we'll never solve this. People fear death. If one person is killed, I don't see anyone killing anyone else ever again, because they fear being killed. Unlike they have luxury in jail right now. They have TVs, they have everything. They are enjoying things that I don't enjoy. As it is, I don't have a TV because my house burned down. But there's somebody who killed five people. He's having his TV, he's complaining about his uniform, he's complaining about the clothes that are not ironed. The thing is, our government are so lenient when it comes to the perpetrators when they are in jail. They have all the rights that we don't have when we're out of jail. Thank you very much. I don't want to prolong this, but I'm so angry about the lack of things that government are doing, even us as people, because the money that are used to take care of those people in jail, it's our money, it's our tax money. My child doesn't have money to go to school, and my child has been raped, but the rapist has money to be taken care of, to be fed, to be taken to school, to do everything that my child, who suffered rape, who suffered so many other things, is out here suffering with nothing. So all I'm saying is, it's our choice. Let's go out there, let's fight to make sure that tomorrow there is death penalty. We bring it back. We bring something so that we can go back to normal. My child should be able to play on the street. I want my daughter to go to school alone. I don't want to escort my daughter to school and go and pick her up. And my daughter should live like an animal. The animal who is doing this is living freely in jail and having fun. Thank you very much.
The last words, my dear, and then I'll just close everything.
All right. Thank you so much, Atsidi. Thank you so much to everyone. This has been a beautiful session. You know, once I have goosebumps, it means that something good is happening. And this today was beautiful. It's never done. There's not enough time. But what I can say is that together as we are here, seeing people from Zimbabwe and Nigeria coming together with us South Africans and whoever that is here and also watching on our Facebook page, we really appreciate you. We're still not done. There's still a lot to be done. Together as we are here, as this community, we have a long way to go. We have a job to do. We're not done. We need to continue with this topic until we are ahead. If the next section is patriarchy, let's do that. Let's continue doing this thing. If we have to involve and knock on those things. We raised solutions, but now we need to action them. And now the question is, who's in to join us together? There's all the family, you there, John, you there, Temba, you there, everybody who's here. We've got a job to do. Let's not just discuss and then end it here. It's not supposed to end here. Let's take it further. Let's take the actions. I'm one of the women that I call myself an activist as well, but a humanitarian activist. I've done a lot for my community. I'm doing a lot for young people. I deal with young girls that have been raped. I'm helping them. But now we need to act. We need to come together. We're not going to wait for the government. We're not going to wait for whoever. This team here, God has put us together to work on this thing. Let's work on it. Let's come together. If the next topic is patriarchy, let's do it. If we decide that next Thursday, and then when everything has come down with this lockdown and pandemic, we need to do community outreach. If we have to do like a festival, an international festival, let's come together. Let's bring these countries together. Let's take these options that we're saying here or solutions. Death penalty must come back. If we have to go to the government and say this needs to be done, we can never win as individuals. We can win as a team, as countries together. Nigeria, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia put together. Then we can win our government. And let's have people that are representing people, not just the government, people's voice. We need a union that is under government, that is submitting solutions or cries from people saying that these are our voices from our people. We need those people. Let's form that team. So much has been said, but it's still not enough. We're going to have another session, definitely, guys. We're going to be bringing in people. Let's continue. It's on a Facebook page. Those that would love to leave their comments and solutions, please do that. We're going to be taking it on, and then we'll see when we arrange for another day, for another session. But this is not done. This is what God has put together for us to begin this journey that we need to begin. I loved everything that was said here. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Well, in closing, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. On behalf of Good TV, I so believe that everybody who is on the platform today and being watched by many people on Facebook, you are leaders. And as leaders, I always believe that leaders, they don't see things the same way that other people who are followers see things. So as much as we have experiences, we are the victims, we have been part of whatever the cruel experiences that have happened in our lives, there's always a reason why things happen. And that's what I want us to always think about. Let's carry that mentality that the reason why things happened to us is because God was actually paving a way for somebody else to learn from us. So, encouraging maybe violence, encouraging, revenge, somewhere, somehow, maybe it might not be the solution. And we are so aware that the government, they are doing a lot in their own part. However, we are here sitting and saying there is a gap. Now, how do we close that gap? Many of you have spoken that the responsibility is on our shoulders. It's not on the government. The government, they are people, they're human, just like us. But you might find out that we are more leaders than them, and mainly because they've got so much pressure. So I would like to plead with everyone on the platform, because we have a role to play to the society. People are watching us. We are role models. So as we go back and come back to the platform, let's go and think on the solutions that are more practical. Let's look at the gaps. Let's look at what government is doing and say, how do we come in? Karabo spoke a lot to say, ANC, it's not everything. We are everything. We have the responsibility. And she's opening her doors as the ANC office to say, if you've got those solutions, come to us. Let's work together. The reason why Good TV has decided to go and knock on the door of ANC Women's League, because we saw the gap and we want to also play the part and contribute. The reason why we have invited Mr. and Mrs. Walder from Nigeria, Mr. John is part of us, Mr. Temba is part of us, TD, she's a TV personality, she's part of us. We are trying to represent all the generations and even all the parties that we thought or we think they cannot participate in this. So this is not only going to be the online session, this is going to grow into a television show. The reason why we are entertaining it online is because of the COVID-19. But once the COVID-19 is over, we are going to be in the streets. We are going to be in the churches. We need to speak the right language. And I like what Mr. Punjul said, that churches, they need to look at the subject differently, because we cannot be talking the old message. When God has moved, we need to move with him. And the reason why we also need to find a way on how to move. Cutting things off, it might not help, but saying this person is doing this because they are suffering from how they were raised. I mean, the way they were raised, things have happened. How do we assist this person? That's why I raised that question in particular, to say, how do you assist perpetrators? Because they are also human. They are suffering from whatever they're suffering. We should not ignore that fact. So I really appreciate your time, and I would like to thank the Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation for actually empowering this project together with SALS and Good TV Africa and SCBC TV. So this footage, we're gonna disseminate it to a lot of people across the world. And let's say maybe in the next session, we're gonna invite other countries like Ghana, Zambia. I know they're watching on Facebook right now, and they also would love to form part. But all in all, I would like to thank everybody on behalf of Good TV. On Sunday, we are actually talking gender-based violence, but now it's young people talking. We have seen something that's been making rounds on Facebook. There's a modeling agency that is utilizing young people. They're actually taking nude pictures of these young people and they're saying it's modeling. And now we went to the young people who are in the creative industry, and we asked them, is this how the business of the creative industry or the showbiz is like? And they are totally against that. But then instead of us talking on their behalf, we said, come, we're giving you the platform as Good TV Africa. You present this subject. Let's hear you talk. Let's hear your solutions. Let you talk to this company or many other companies that are doing the same thing, exploiting young people. So I would love you as parents to also join them and hear our kids talking, hear our young people talking, because it's not only us that we should be giving solutions to them. We don't know what they want. We don't know how we make them suffer. Let's hear their voices so that as we come back to this platform, the GBV part 3, we know that we also include our young people's voices in our topic. So thank you very much, and may God bless you. Right now, I'm just gonna end the meeting, and then I will share this with everybody. But if you'd like to also have the recording, you can go on Good TV Africa Facebook page. It will be there. You can just make a copy and keep it with yourself so that in the next session, you know exactly what are the things that we need to tackle moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.